Is it hot in here, or is it just me tuning in to hear these three chatting about fantasy novels of the spicy variety? Not your average book club, if you know what I mean. Are you happy to see us? Or is that a dagger? It's Feast, Sheath, Shatter. It's Feast, Sheath, Shatter. This is the first time for us. Are we recording?
We are now.
Woo! First time for us. We're actually re-recording a book that we have already talked about to bring Hannah into the conversation.
Yes.
And we will be talking about
Serpent and the Wings of Night
by
Carissa Broadbent.
Correct.
I got it.
You did get it. She has about 4 books out currently in the Nyaxia universe. The Serpent and the Wings of Night, the sequel to that, which we'll talk about shortly, I think in a week.
Yeah.
And then also Slaying of the Vampire Conqueror and 6 Scorched Roses.
Yes, which is like a novella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have we all read all of them?
No.
Okay.
I've only read the first, which we're talking about tonight, and I'm just a little bit into the second book.
Okay. How about you, Rach?
I have read 6 Scorched Roses. Of course, I've already read the first one, and I'm like 60% into the second one.
Okay. You didn't reread the first one.
I did not, because it's just been a really busy season of my life.
And you don't have to. And you don't have to.
I read it.
Yeah, you've read it before.
Yeah.
So
it's in the vault. It's good. Yeah.
I will say, and I think something that we should kind of like address early, because I typically read these books / listen to these books via audio. I read this book the first 2 times because the audiobook wasn't even out. Hannah picked up the audiobook, and Hannah, what was your response to the audiobook?
Well, I started reading it first, and then I was like, oh, let me get the audiobook. It's only this much money. So I got it, and I started listening, and I was like, ew.
Yes, so the audiobook was truly mismatched with the narrator and the story. And
She was not getting the mood. She was not getting... When I'm reading it in my head, I hear Aurea as very, like, serious, angry, like she's down to business.
Yeah,
and
she is.
The narrator was, like, kind of joking about it all.
Right. And the narrator of this book is funny because it's Holly Jackson, who we all know, or you might know from the Ice Planet Barbarian series, in which the tone of her voice is fine for those roles. They are a little bit lighter. They're like way spicy. It's more sex than context. And they're wonderful, and they're light, and they're funny. And something that was really hard for me is it's one thing for her Aurea voice to be so upbeat. Her male voices were really, really bad for Rain. Really bad.
Agreed.
And that is what made it unlistenable to me. So I did listen to probably half the book just to show Holly some
love
and support. However, we've got great news. I went to go try and buy this book too before I borrowed it from Hannah. Sorry, Audible. But I went to go buy it, and you can no longer buy it. And the reason why is because they heard everyone, and they're re-recording with Amanda Lee Cobb, who is the narrator for A Court of Wings and Ruin and also A Court of Frost and Starlight. So she's like the Feyre voice in the second 2 books. So she's definitely got more... of that.
The serious.
Yes.
And she does a really good male voice.
And she does a really... Yes. And then in the...
Well, I saw there's 2 narrators.
Well,
Oh, no, that's for the second book.
In the second book, Rain has his own chapters and his own voice. So they'll do the dual narration there.
Yeah.
Cool.
But they heard you. I saw so many TikToks talking about this, and I was like, hey, just so you know, they're re-recording.
Yeah.
Hey, just so you know, they're re-recording.
Yeah.
So
I
She was
feel
just
so
miscast.
bad. Yeah, it's not her. Like she's a
great at
great
what she
reader.
does.
She's
Yeah.
a great everything. Just it wasn't for that book.
but it needs to be like rom-com, or maybe she
Yeah.
can readjust her tonation or something.
Yeah, or just stick with what she's good at.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of those books out there that
Yeah.
like Ice Planet Barbarians. that
Yeah.
It's okay to have a lighter tone.
Yeah.
This book did not have a light tone by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it did not.
No.
When we first covered this book, I think we were both very we were surprised.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, this book is really good. It's pacing. We had just come out of some Sarah J. Maas world where I think we had just finished ACOTAR.
Yeah.
This might be the first book we read after it.
Okay.
And so Rachel was like, the pacing was so
Refreshing.
refreshing.
Because there
tight.
was pacing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's moving right along.
Yeah, it moves right along.
Yeah, Broadbent
Yeah.
seems to have like a plan.
Yeah, she's definitely a planner.
for-
I would definitely say she's a planner. She's got a lot to cover. And I feel like the first book, she definitely planned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know how you guys aren't that far. It's so funny. My perspective of this book has actually changed a little bit since reading the sequel.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about like what had stuck with me because I didn't get a chance to reread it. And I was like, well, here's the kind of stuff that I remember. And of course, I'm reading the sequel, and I had totally forgotten the House of Shadow existed. I have such a hard time with her house names because they're all like a variation of darkness or blood. House of Night, House of Shadow, House of Blood. I get House of Shadow and House of Night mixed up. I forget House of Blood is a different house. We've made up all these really cool names. Everything else has these out of the box names, but it's the House of Night, the House of Shadow, and the House of Blood.
Yeah.
It would have been easier for me to keep them apart, I think, if we had pushed the boat a little bit farther out on those.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I had forgotten like the stakes of the Kajari. I knew they had to win, but I think in the book, I remember being confused about how you win the entire time.
You survive.
Like, okay, but does everybody
Hunger Games.
survive? Like, do you just have to does literally everyone have to die? And I know it's supposed to be like that because
Yeah.
it's literally different every year.
It's not clear on that. And I remember thinking for the longest time, is this like the Hunger Games where there's only one survivor? If so, Rain and her are really being weird right now.
Right.
But then they say something. Later that made me think, oh, there can be more than. They're like the survivors
the rules
of.
change.
Nyaxia is
Yeah.
the chaos goddess.
Yeah.
I was thinking earlier, now that I've read the slaying of the vampire conqueror, you get another Nyaxia cameo. And she's just like chaotic and feels really emotionally stunted. Like her development was truly arrested because she just doesn't. I mean, I feel like she's a goddess that acts like a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a child, right? She's
Definitely.
like out the box. She wants her own children to thrive and be incredible representatives.
Representations?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But also, she kind of like is mean and hurtful to them
Yeah.
simultaneously. So she's just like, it's going to be what I want it to be. Whatever, you know? You just never know what you're going to get with her. I feel like the vampires are constantly walking on eggshells because of their really toxic goddess.
Yeah. Yeah, because you could either get blessed and get to be the ruler for 200 years and get a really cool tattoo, or you can go slowly mad and turn into a demon.
And it's not that right.
And
it's,
it could go either way.
You never know.
And
You
you'll
never know.
find in some of her other stories that some really epic pursuits have happened in the name of reversing the House of Blood's curse.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not trying.
Yeah.
They are. And she's like, no.
Yeah.
Just no.
Yeah.
And
like,
when,
fucking no.
when
I
you
told
think
you.
of the reasoning behind the curse, it doesn't truly make sense either. But
Right.
I digress. We start this book off with, each chapter, so they're like each part, right, is like a different type of night. We have
Right.
dusk and then night, and then all these moon cycles.
Yes.
And each time we start off with a little glimpse of who Aurea was before, like it takes us back.
Yeah.
So we learn at the very beginning that Vincent just shows up when she's a child,
Yeah.
little girl. Everyone else she's already known has been
Killed?
killed,
Yeah. Annihilated?
annihilated
Yeah.
And
By-
she's just magically
by
there.
the Hiaj army that
Yeah.
Vincent rules, and he comes and specifically picks her up
Yeah.
and then raises her as his child.
Right.
And no one knows why or understands.
Yeah.
Right.
So that seems super suspicious.
Yeah.
And as I'm reading, I'm so confused because when I started, even the first chapter, Vincent finds her, picks her up. I'm like, villain, bad guy. He's bad,
Yeah.
villain. And I don't understand why we're not talking about that. It's like he's just, and of course, Aurea is brainwashed. But I just kept thinking that she's going to have an epiphany.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
do
not
like
coming.
I do like the ambiguity of Vincent's character because I think we start out with that italicized section where it's like he did not realize that his greatest love would also become his greatest weakness. And you're like, oh, okay. And then he meets this child because you're thinking, all right, well, is this going to be like a romantic love thing? But no, it's like a paternal love. So his paternal love that he allows himself to have for Aurea in the way that he can, because he's not, I mean, the dude murdered his entire family. Mm-hmm. It's not like he has the emotional capacity to be like,
Right.
Let's sit on our lap and read a story together and I'll sing you a bedtime story, Dad. But he can be the like, I will teach you to fight and eliminate your armies, your enemies, and then you will bathe in their blood and we will celebrate together, Dad. And she's like,
Don't forget the dad at the end.
yeah,
Dad.
Yeah. And I think it is, yes. But I like the fact that he's a little bit villainous, but also there are moments where she's like, oh, he does love me. He just can't say it.
But I just keep waiting to find out what his true motives are.
Yeah.
And I leave frustrated.
Yeah, I think we've held out that way too long because 60% in to the second book, I'm still like, what
And
the
we
fuck,
kind of
Vincent?
touch on it, at the end of this book. And it's like, okay, yes.
Yeah.
He saw the power in her early on.
Yeah, it's this constant battle, and this is such a real life thing. And I think that's what's kind of like a nuanced take on fathers, where they we love them more than anything. Simultaneously, we realize that they might not be a good person, right? Or they're grooming us to be,
Yeah.
battle hardened 20-year-olds while also trying to love us. And she learns to receive that as love. So there's this two thing happening, the two truth thing happening all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
That she loves her dad, and that's where it's almost intentional. Like, we aren't supposed to trust him. We are supposed to be expecting him to be the bad guy at every corner, which is why the ending kind of throws us for a loop, because it's not what we're expecting. It's
Yeah.
almost like a what's the term for it? It's distracting us.
Oh, a red herring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we're not, that last moment where we realize, we are surprised that his intentions were relatively out of love and not just, the whole time we think he's kind of using her.
I still think that.
Yeah, well, I've read both books, so I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I don't mean that like that doesn't, it's not relevant. I just said that.
Sure.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
But this is a little bit of a twist on the Hunger Games, but I like this better. I mean, I know the like teenage like fight to the death for ultimate power thing has been done. We had Battle Royale, which is like kind of the first. And then we have Hunger Games. We have, it's just done, 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 done. So on the surface, I feel like this could have come off as a very like, oh, okay, great, we're going to fight to the death. But I think that the chemistry between the character of Aurea and Rain really pulls us through.
Yeah, and it's really good, and it's slow, and it's organic, and it's earned. And so often in some of these romanticides, it is like she hated him and then she loved him, right? Oh, she was really resistant and then all of a sudden. But with this, you really see...
She sees him getting out of the shower one day and the water glistening
on his butt.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, okay.
And then they do butt stuff.
And then they do butt stuff.
Oh, those are for you guys.
Oh my God,
Oh
that's so funny. Butt stuff stickers.
I can't reach them.
I'm putting that on my Kindle.
I got you guys butt stuff stickers.
Yay.
I was at a con and they had them and I was like, I need 2 butt stuff stickers. And he was like, how about I give you a free one? I was like, I got 3 butt stuff stickers. So I have my own butt stuff sticker.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's great.
So
I'm going to put
knows.
it on my...
I felt like it was so us. I just had to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have, they do butt stuff. I don't think they ever do. We do a very good, like, friendship. Like, enemies to friends to lovers. Instead of, like, I hate you up till the very moment when all of a sudden I'm banging you against the wall.
I hate you, and then we hate fuck each other, and then all of a sudden my feelings show up.
Yeah. And
because
then I'm
my
like,
hormones shifted.
yeah.
Yeah. So, it's earned. I think that Rain really earns it, and I like that he's 32. I like that she's not 19.
Yes. Yes. Thank God.
That's refreshing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit above 19, but I'll take it.
How old is she?
She's like 23 or 24.
That is an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In these medieval,
so much better.
In a medieval world,
So
she's literally 24 to 26 was a spinster.
Yes, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I mean, she's basically an old maid.
Yeah. Which is,
Basically.
I'm like, thank you.
Thankful.
Thank you, God. Yes.
Yeah. But Carissa does a really nice job with the page. Like, this book is just so neat and clean.
Yeah.
And not extra. There's never, every page you learn something new. You're constantly moving forward. You don't want it to end. You know, it ends, it abruptly shuts off.
Yeah, it really does. And I remember last time thinking, like, I'm never going to figure out how this ends. Like, I can't figure out how they're going to get out of this because she writes them into such a corner.
Right.
And then the whole ending is just like, whoa, what the fuck? What
Yeah.
just happened? Like,
Yes.
this guy died, but he didn't die, and then he came back. And I thought when she said,
God
I
is
don't want to win, I thought she was going to die.
Yep.
But then they both get to live.
I
And
did
then-
not see that coming.
Yeah, it's a lot all at once where we have like, oh, we're fighting together. I mean, we have this like steady pace. Then all of a sudden it's just like, it's like that meme where the guy walks in with a pizza box and everything's on fire. Like that.
Wait, from
Wasn't it Community? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That meme with Donald Glover, yes.
Yes.
That's so funny. Yeah, and I think that, you know, hold on. I just completely lost my thought.
It's okay. Take a moment.
If anyone else wants to. Sorry, I went blank.
I do wish we had established a little bit more about why the House of Night is so divided instead of just like, you don't have feathers and I have feathers. And so I don't like you.
You have bird
Yeah.
wings and I have bat wings.
Yeah.
And so I don't like you. And
Right.
because Nyaxia doesn't want us to like each other. And like, okay,
Yeah,
well,
she wants the chaos.
I mean, we could have had something like their magics are antithetical or so, like we could have added another layer there to really be like, this is why they can't. Instead of just like, well, they hate each other because that's just what they are. Everybody.
I honestly
do.
just feel like after that book, I have I have more questions than anything. And I just
Yeah,
feel
and it's
like
the taste of a world that's done all right, but needs way more world building.
Right.
And you like the world, and you're like, this is cool.
I do.
I need to know more about it.
Yeah.
So she's got these other pieces, these other love stories, but really these are romance novels with fantasy.
Yeah.
You know, this really is about, I mean, this one kind of went more like adventure and then romance was on the side, but I really think it's more or less a love story.
I just still, I still wish that we would, no, did you think of your thing?
No.
I was going to
It's gone
say,
forever.
I still wish that we could discuss why a human is in this. Like, I want to talk more about this. Is this the
Yeah.
first time a human's ever done this?
Right.
Why is everyone not freaking out right now? It's a human. It's your food. Your dinner is like fighting with you.
And they're like, okay, well, at least there'll be one that's easy to kill. So it's fine. Instead of like, why? You'd think in
Well,
a world where everything
Go
is
ahead.
so cloak and dagger, they would expect this to be something more than what it is. Instead of just being like, a human, we'll kill that one first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the power of Vincent is, I mean, obviously, the power of Vincent makes her untouchable in a
Yeah.
way.
Sure.
I mean, really, I think it says more about that. But I do agree that it is, they don't really, I guess, politicize it enough to be like, what the fuck is the food doing
Well,
here?
I think it's because Carissa did more world building.
Yeah.
She knows exactly what's happening. And I think there's just a slight disconnect in how much she thinks she is conveying and how much she actually is conveying. And I think she's banking on her whole world being revealed in the books as they go. But it would be nice to have just a little bit more. And I
Yeah.
think the first time I read it, I did enjoy it. And I do think this is a good book. But I was so enamored with the Araya-Rain relationship and how well she grew that organically. And how when they finally got together, it was so nice that they were together. And then when the
Right.
betrayal happens at the end, I was so angry on Araya's behalf.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking back, I'm like, well, I remember that, but like, what else do I remember? Like, starting the second book, I was like, oh yeah, did she talk about that in the first one? I don't remember. Or like,
Probably not.
did we discuss that in the first one? And I think it's just, yeah, I do think she's banking on like, okay, now you're going to read my short story. Now you're going to read this other one. And I'm releasing them so fast that you're just going to like, you're going to be steeped in it for so long, you won't, like, it'll feel okay that I don't reveal everything right away.
I mean, I'm here for it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll read
I
all
mean,
your
those
stuff.
are good books.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're good
I've
enough for
read-
me to want to be like, yeah, okay. All
keep
right, I'll read
reading.
another one. I'll figure out
Yeah.
what this is.
And I've been crushing books, and once you've read a couple where you're like, oh, okay, I understand why people like Akatar so much, because just in the world building, and this one is just, yeah, it's clean. It does everything you want it to do.
Yeah.
In a book that you're surprised about.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry, I lost it again. I shouldn't have I took my meds late today. Too focused, so focused I can't speak.
I mean, we can talk about some of the characters. So we have Misha. Didn't we decide it was Misha?
Yeah, and actually Misha's getting her. Okay, let's talk about this. And we can talk more about this. I can't wait till we get to the second book because I'll be able to say a lot more of what I want to say.
Yeah.
Misha is actually getting the next story.
Oh, that
so-
will be good.
Aurea and Rain's specific books are over with this the
The
duology.
duet. Yeah.
But we're going to get all these other books, and at some point they're going to cross over, and we're going to see them. Like in the second book, I was more excited about Lilith and Vale showing up.
Yeah.
That was what I wanted. I was like, where's Lilith and Vale? Right?
Yeah.
And then now I want to go back and read them because I think at some point they talk about Atreus, which is how I think you pronounce it, from the Vampire Conqueror book. She's building them all in, so there'll be this retrospective
Oh,
where
yeah.
you want to go back and read because
Yeah.
you
Find all the Easter eggs.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why I find myself doing it now. I'm like, okay, well, I like this universe. I like their story, this story, and then this book is
Yeah.
booking.
I think that's why it feels like a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like the whole puzzle.
Yeah.
It feels like she gave us a piece. And then she's
Definitely.
like, now wait, I've got more.
Yep.
And so you can see part of the picture, but you can't see the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
As a very impatient person, this will be hard for me, but I'm
You
willing
get some
to.
answers in the second book.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to read a novel where everything isn't written yet. Because I know
Yes.
we're going to get more. And
Yeah.
it's going to take a little while. And so we'll just have to wait.
Yep. And get some of that background and, yeah, little pieces of different things. Like Lilith and Vale. Vale is a House of Shadow vampire, and Atreus is a House of Blood vampire.
Vale is House of Shadow.
Yeah,
But doesn't he have wings?
maybe you're right. Maybe he's House of Night.
Yeah, I think he is because he's
Is he Rashawn or is he Hesh?
yeah. No, he's Rashawn.
He's Rashawn.
He's Rashawn.
He's
yes.
got wings.
Yeah, because he left after
Oh, yeah, 'cause
Neculus
he
died.
falls down.
The previous Rashawn
Oh, right.
king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever. He
Yeah,
has a
these
really long name.
names.
Yeah.
These names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. I was walking on the
And I
And then
turned and
Paul
told
came over.
Yeah. So, Hannah, do you think you would have picked up and read this book if we were not doing a podcast about it?
Oh yeah, because it's right up my alley. So it's one that my Audible and Kindle would have suggested that I read next anyways.
Yeah. Do you feel like you read it differently because you knew you were going to talk about it on the podcast? Because the previous ones you'd all read before going on the podcast.
Possibly. Maybe that's why I'm so curious.
Yeah.
Maybe if I didn't think I was going to talk about it, I would have just been along for the ride,
Ah, I see what we're doing here.
you know?
Yeah.
And since I was like, okay, I got to read this book and talk about it, I'm like, but wait.
Yeah. What am I going
Why?
to say about this
But
part? I'm
why?
not quite.
But who? But when? Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I'm just trying to understand too much instead of just, taking it. Take it.
Yeah. They have it's funny, this is the second book that we've read where they have a pantheon. And I'm curious, what's that word mean?
It just means like a group of gods.
I thought it was a building.
I can see why
there a
you
building
would think
called-
The
that.
Parthenon.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep.
I have been
Is in Rome.
I could have looked it up. I was like, I'm pretty sure the Pantheon means something I don't understand. That makes sense. It's a group of gods, which is why we saw it in Wild Built.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
they
had
have
a
a
Pantheon
pantheon.
there too. Pantheon.
Yeah, the gods around.
Yeah. So that makes way more sense.
Except Nyaxia is not in the pantheon.
No, she got booted.
Yeah.
Well,
Probably because
she-
they were like, you're at low frequency. We need you to go
Well,
over there.
no, they killed her husband.
Yeah.
And she never recovered from it. And I genuinely think she was just traumatized to the, like, you can tell.
Definitely.
Their lives are so long that the 2,000 years that it has been since it happened is not
Like
long
nothing.
for her.
Yeah.
If your life is immortal, do you let things go?
Either you let things go or you never do.
Right. Functionally immortal.
Yeah.
Like the Illyrian are so stubborn from...
Yes.
Yeah.
We all know what we're talking about.
Have
Yeah.
you guys
Yeah.
read Circe?
No, have you?
Yes.
Oh, I want to. It's on my TBR.
But that's what that reminds me of is when you are immortal, how do these traumas like shape your everyday living when 1,000 years goes by?
Right, when you don't have to let something go because you're...
It is so good. Such a good book.
Yeah, I've seen that one a lot. Are y'all reading anything else right now? You read Dune.
Yeah, I read Dune.
Are you reading anything else?
No, I'm just trying to read this Ashes.
Ashes of the Star-Crossed King.
Thank you.
I can't remember it because the
think
name
so.
seems irrelevant
The
to
covers
the story.
are the same.
The covers are the same.
The covers are the same.
I have to read the title because they're next to each other in my Kindle app.
Yes.
I'm like, hey.
It was a choice. We could have done a different background color. Something. If I had them on the shelf each time, I'd have to read the title. I couldn't just identify them by sight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I have read probably 5 other books.
Girl, what are you
I just
doing?
read Project Hail Mary, which was excellent.
Okay.
I read Belladonna. I just slaughter the books.
Yeah.
I don't do anything else but sit at home and read.
You have like 5 jobs.
Yeah, but I still have, every time I'm in my car, I'm listening to a book.
Yeah.
And when I'm at home, I'm reading.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly absorbing. But
Yeah.
Belladonna was good. I'm trying to think. I just read, so many. Though that divine something.
I don't know, but when I do
busy.
read more than 5 books in a month, they start to run together.
I know
Yeah.
I can't tell you what happened in any of these books. I'm like, what book was that? Oh, I read a book where the second one is reverse harem, and I was like, oh, I didn't see it go in that direction. Yeah, and here we are.
Very nice.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you're like, okay, this
Oh,
is
this
fine.
is fine.
Kind of nice. Kinda
Yeah,
nice.
that one is, that's so funny. But yeah, it ended up being, I was like, oh, look at this. I didn't know I was going to be into this, but I am.
Yeah.
I read Blood and Steel, pretty good. I'm reading Woven by Gold, pretty good. The Witch Collector, pretty good. And then I just listened to Hail Mary, which was so good.
Yeah, I like Andy Weir. I thought The Martian was really good.
Did you read it?
And the audiobook's actually really good too.
This audiobook guy is incredible. I think
Yeah.
it won some awards, honestly, but I needed to branch out of the romantasy genre for a
For
minute.
just a minute, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I think gets to me about this book after a while too is everybody has a tragic backstory.
Yep.
So after a while, you're just like, if everybody has a tragic backstory, does anybody have
Is
a
it
tragic backstory? Or is it just the way the world is?
Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody, oh my God, Araya was raised by a vampire guy who did not know how to show love.
Yeah.
Rain got turned, never went back to see his family, and then spent years as like a sex slave.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, okay, and can we just, female romantasy authors, please stop making the male character a sex slave in the like their traumatic backstory. That was Rasanne's traumatic backstory. That was Rain's traumatic backstory. I think I've read 4. The last 3 or 4, it was all like, well, I was once like chained to her bed. Throne of Glass, one of the characters is like
Yeah, I was
forced
gonna
to
say.
be with Maeve.
Lorcan.
Yeah.
No, or one of the dogs.
one of the dogs.
One of the wolves.
Yeah.
The doggies. One of the cadre.
Yeah. And it, okay. But it ends up
So-
after a while, you're like, well, it's just a cheap way of giving them like a weakness. I don't want to call it a weakness, but like well, I know what you're going through. I know what it's like to be objectified.
It's almost like reverse objectification.
Yeah.
It's trying to be progressive by making men have to deal with the same
What
kinds
women
of
deal with.
all the time.
Yeah.
Let's think of
It's-
something different.
It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's cheap because I see the point of it. It's like it is just as normal for a man to be objectified as a woman. But in the sense, doesn't that kind of, like you said earlier, cheapen women's objectification?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's just, at this point, it's almost a trope.
It is a trope. And I don't love the trope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody loves enemies to lovers, but I don't know if like sex slave background needs to like be put in the list of like, oh, I want that in my.
You know, it's almost
Book.
as if it's like solidifying how good in bed they'll be. Like I had to do
Yeah.
this as my job for years.
Yeah.
Yes.
To someone.
Yes. And they're
And
never
in
traumatized about it.
And the thing is, they didn't play into Reese's trauma as much. I mean, we got glimpses of it.
Yeah.
We knew he had nightmares. We knew it was hard. I've seen fan art that makes it way more powerful.
Yes.
And I've read fanfic that makes it more powerful. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, I was,
Well,
Yeah.
with Reese, it's more like his obsession with having a choice. You know, he's always making sure that Farah can choose, blah, blah, blah. That's where that comes,
Yeah.
that's what we get out of his trauma.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, I want to see someone who is sexually traumatized. Like, you don't want to be touched.
Right. And that's typical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Rowan?
I thought you
Rowan
were going to
was-
really say something else about that.
I wasn't. I was realizing that. Yeah, I think it's important to realize that bad sexual trauma can happen to men,
Yeah.
For sure.
and I appreciate that, but using it as a plot device. I mean, what would we think of it if a woman that was her background? abuse. It's not how she would respond. She would respond differently, I think. in
Right.
the
It would be
story.
hard to view physical intimacy as like pleasurable, not pleasurable, but it's like even consensual. It would feel like hard to get over I don't know, it would rewrite the way you feel about sexual intimacy for me. And so I think it would be hard to it's hard for me to believe that a female character could go through an immortal female character could go through 100 years as a sex slave and then be like, I'm going to fall in love with this one man and I'm immediately going to be sexually attracted to him. There's a really good British television show called Being Human, and they talk about that with one of the vampire characters because he's trying to be in a relationship and the person he's with wants to be with him physically. And he's like, you don't understand. That's part of how I hunt. That's part of how I do what I do. I don't want to do that to you because to me, that doesn't feel intimate. That feels like I'm trying to get something from you.
Right.
And I just think we are always leaving sex as like, well, every attraction eventually leads to sexual desire, regardless of past trauma, regardless of where they came from, especially for men, because men always just want to fuck the hot chick or whatever. And it doesn't you don't end up talking about like, well, I went through so much. I need to really feel safe before I feel like we can do that. And so I think that's why I don't like it as a trope, because I don't think it diminishes female objectification, but I think it diminishes the idea that men can suffer from objectification too. Like the completely false concept that men cannot be raped because a man has to be physically complicit. Well, they don't. They don't. Their body can have reactions that they have no control over.
Right.
And we know that now. And that's the conversation that's happening now. So why are we not having a conversation about like the effect of rape on men?
Right.
Yeah. Like it doesn't make them better lovers. It doesn't make them better at it because they've been with so many women.
That's what I was saying. Like, I want to see some real trauma. But thank you for really saying it's so much better. And also, these books on the shelf behind you that are the different phases of the moon.
Oh, they're like a picture thing.
Oh. I was like, what are those? Those kind of go along with our book now. The phases. And I'm sorry to bring it back to Twilight.
That's okay.
Is that Twilight?
But I just thought, like, new moon.
Yeah, she was like
Yeah.
new moon
Eclipse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Twilight.
Breaking Dawn.
Yeah. That kind of what reminded me of with all the breakups. She broke up the book a lot. Dusk, full moon, waning moon, half moon, crescent moon, new moon, night, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It breaks up the book a lot. And I don't really necessarily feel like it needs it. I don't feel like each section is different.
Something that when you've got these artists, these writers that are pushing out 4 books a year, sometimes the books feel a little sloppy.
Yeah. Like they
they're
don't have
just
time to really,
percolate. And I want to percolate in that story. I don't know. I also don't write, and I don't know what it's like to write, and I never will. And so, I don't know. I've just been curious about that. Like, you'll get these books where you're like, how fast did you write this? How many editors read this?
well, I think for some writers, it's like, well, I just got to get this story out and move on to the next one.
Right.
And for others, like Patrick Rothfuss, maybe it's like, well, I'm going to write this for the
And
next
then I'm going
10
to 20 years.
Yeah.
Do we even have a date for the 3rd King Killer? Probably not. I'll have to read those again.
No, we don't. Nope. He's releasing like a short story. And everyone was like, the next book's coming out. And he's like, nope, sorry. It's a short story in the world of.
Oh, fuck off with that shit.
Yeah.
He even, what the fuck? Like, they look the same. Oh, so annoying. Something's gonna happen, and we're not gonna get the 3rd book.
Yeah.
And you've got these really 2 unfinished books. Sorry, I don't mean to get so intense about it. It's just like Game of Thrones all over again.
Yeah, it's all right. I get what you're saying.
It's frustrating.
I don't think we're there with Carissa, though.
Oh, no.
No.
She'll take care of us.
Yeah.
Sarah J. Maas news. Ha-ha!
Go for it.
A piece of the the next Crescent City was dropped. A little blippet. I sent it to you guys. We're gonna read it. Talk about it. even though Rachel has no idea who these characters are because we haven't read Crescent City together yet. We're going to do that in December. She's so excited. Whoop, whoop.
I am.
I know you are.
You can tell I am.
I can tell. You're brimming with excitement.
Your eyes are just...
All right, this is what came out. Bryce Quinlan was in a room so deep beneath the bowels, always the bowels, of the mountain that daylight must have been a myth for the creatures that inhabited here. For a place that obviously wasn't hell, its surroundings looked a lot like one. Where do we think she is?
Ooh, where is she?
Maybe actually in hell? I don't know. I've never read any of them.
No, she's not in hell, and hell's an actual place there, so that's not where
okay.
she's at.
That's an actual land.
No, she's looking for
Hellland.
Hell. She's looking for the planet Hell. She's not there.
Hellville.
She could be under the mountain.
She could be if she stayed over.
She could be where Amarantha
Should
Town.
we be having like a Crescent City spoiler warning for the end of this podcast?
Ooh.
Hey, you need to take out everything I just said.
I'll just put in
Erase that.
it's a spoiler coming. Spoiler coming.
Yeah.
Kate's face when you just realized what you
Don't-
said.
I also saved our beep from the last one. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that over
Yeah.
too.
Please beep out what I just said. Just strike that, reverse it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to get a really good glimpse of this book, you'll need to listen to two podcasts, our previous podcast and this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good. I mean, that pretty much sums it up. There was the Hunger Games
Civrenage.
in Civernage. Oriah won, but didn't want to win because she had to kill Rain. She brought Rain back, and then Rain killed her father and
Yes.
became the king, and that was it.
And then, no, that's not it. And then
She becomes the heir.
Aurea has an heir mark, which
Yeah.
means that she is actually Vincent's daughter.
Yep.
He is actually her father.
Wait. What? You think?
Speculatively.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way they have heir marks.
Well, I just thought it was like an emotional thing.
Maybe it is. Power of Nyaxia skips around.
You obviously have read the second
I
book and know
don't
more than
remember
I.
it. No, that's not what's happening here. I don't even remember the second book.
Okay.
I forget the moment that I read it.
Okay.
Erase all of the things I said.
Okay.
Don't
I
believe
will.
you.
I'm
but
just
okay.
kidding. I don't know if that's what happens or not. But that's what we're supposed to assume. She has
Yeah.
an ear mark. So, like, oh, it just further exacerbates the mystery of, wait, is he her actual dad?
Yeah.
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 That
It's a lot.
never,
It's good.
never occurred to me.
That
That
the
he
air
could be
mark.
actually
be-
father.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Not till the very end. Because they don't talk about how vampires can have babies with people, with humans.
Oh,
Yeah.
do they talk about that later?
I don't know.
Well, they frame it as like they're two completely separate species. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I
That was
actually
really
don't
good.
remember the second book because I'm not going to bullshit you guys. I didn't really like the second book and I want
You
to
didn't,
reread it.
yeah.
I want to reread it and give it a fair shot. And we're going to talk about it. And so that is on my priority list. I've knocked out all the other books I'm reading.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rachel did Dune without me.
You just feel, I'm
so
sorry. Do you
sad.
feel, I didn't know you liked Dune.
It's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
We
I'm
brought
just,
you in
Do
for Fifth
Dune
Element.
again.
I know.
Yeah.
Everything that I've ever read or watched, I have to be involved in. No, I'm just kidding. I just saw Ma Adib on there and I read it like 4 times last year.
Wow.
Yeah, I listened to that audiobook too while I was painting a house, so I listened to it twice. It's fine. Dune is fine. It makes sense why it's important
I've never read it.
because of the time.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think we can probably call it here if we're already talking about Dune.
yeah.
Because Dune's like another 3-hour conversation.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about Dune. I was actually really just kidding.
I know
I
you
don't
were.
have to.
Also, I don't ever think we did an intro.
No, we
Hey
didn't.
friends, I'm Kate.
But I figured we could do Feast, Sheath, Shatter.
Feast, Sheath, Shatter.
Okay.
Unless you want to do it that way.
Feast, Sheath, Shatter.
What happened to one of us for each?
That's what I was going for.
She said feast, sheath, shatter. Just feast.
Yeah.
Wait, what is the line she says? Are you happy to see us? Or is that a hammer? Or is that a morning star? That's how I say it in my head.
Oh, okay.
It's
All
a
right.
different death mallet.
Well, let's do our names, and then I'll do Feast, Sheath, and Shatter. Do we think
Okay,
we can handle that? Okay,
Let's
so
try.
hi, I'm Rachel,
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Kate.
and this is Feast.
Sheath.
Shatter!
I love it. Okay. Until next time, friends.
See you.
Bye.
Is it hot in here or is it just me?